Hi everyone, you're watching Good for the Game TV and this PGA Championship betting preview for 2019. Feels kind of strange having the PGA Championship in May. Of course, it's normally much later in the year, but this is going to be its new time slot for the next 10 years at least. It does mean that we don't have to wait so long between the four majors. Unfortunately, it's going to mean an even bigger gap at the end of the year as far as waiting for the next major goes. Well, we had a thrilling US Masters with Tiger Woods holding off the field there. He delivered. Biggest odds I saw, I managed to grab about him was 18-1. I must say, people thought I won a lot of money on that tournament. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case. I had a big bet on Rory McIlroy, which went belly up, and I just about broke square. Before you do anything else, if you are new to our shows, you can go down below the video, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell. Then you'll get notified of all of our videos. We mainly do rugby betting previews, but we also do golf, and with the Cricket World Cup coming up, we'll have some of that on as well. Well, I am joined on the line. We've had some technical issues getting this one going, and hopefully it'll work out okay. But he's the digital editor at Compleat Golfer, and on Twitter, you can find him at Wade Pretorius. Wade, how are you, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. I've been stuff for quite some time, so it's cool to be a guest on your show. All good and ramped up for Thursday's, as you say, early tee-off for the PGA Championship.
I mean, you and I have been sort of following each other on Twitter for quite a while, and I see a lot of your golf tweets, and generally you're the guys up at 1 in the morning watching the golf.
Yep, made golf my work, so I suppose it's I was always up at 1 watching anyway. So now it's just part of my job. So I suppose it's a good excuse for a lie-in on the Saturday and Sunday morning.
It certainly is. Well, let's get into the 2002 or 2003 when Tiger Woods won. It's a municipal golf course, but it's a real beast. It's going to be a tough test of golf for the players. I see when Tiger won it, he won it with a score of -3, and he was the only player under par.
Yeah, it is. It's known to be one of the toughest tracks out there. I don't think it'll be set up as badly. I think the PGA don't want any of the drama that former editions have had, so it won't be a US Open. Matt Fitzpatrick dropping a ball in the rough, and it looked, yeah. And you won't see guys battering the course, but then again, if the big hitters, the Rorys, the DJs do shine, then the score could be quite low.
Right. Well, I'm going to share my screen quickly and go to Betxchange's website. I always enjoy Betxchange for the golf, and the reason for that predominantly is the fact that they've got the top 3 in ties. They got the top 3 in ties promo. So basically, if you back a player to win at Betxchange and he finishes in the top 3, including ties, you will get your stake back. I think it's up to a maximum of 5,000 Rand. You'll get that back as a free bet or betting voucher. So I must say, I do like the promo, although I've never actually used it in the sense that I've either backed a winner with them or the guys finished outside the top 3. But it certainly is a nice one, that one for golf punters. Let's have a look here now at the betting. I'm going to run through the top few in the betting there for you, Wade, and you can tell me your thoughts on them, and then we'll go through the selection. So Brooks Koepka, him and Dustin Johnson here at 11-1. Koepka, of course, he's won. He's incredibly consistent in the majors. He was runner up to Woods, and he's won. What's it? 3 of the last 4 of the last 7, or something like that. And you've got Dustin Johnson, who hasn't been as prolific in the majors, but should be really course suited.
Yeah, I think Koepka is the one. I mean, he's the defending champion. And yeah, he missed the putt on 18 at the Masters that would have forced the playoff with Tiger. So he's certainly one for the major occasion. And his odds are pretty good, considering that we've had guys, back in the day at Tiger, you wouldn't get more than 6-1 on Tiger, or even 5-1. So 11-1 isn't that bad. DJ, it does suit him being a long course, but he's only won 1 major, so that's probably one that I would be swerving at this stage.
What do you think of Rory there, 12-1? I mentioned at the start of the show I was big on Rory in the US Masters. In fact, far too big. I had sort of 10 times more on Rory than I had on any other player, and in the end he absolutely wiped. And of course I'm leaving him alone this week. You know what that means.
Yeah, I think that's I left him alone at the Masters purely just because of the, that was his career slam, and I just felt like that might be too big for him. That definitely does play on his mind. Yeah, different occasion. He's such a streaky player. If his putter warms up early, then he'll definitely go deep on Sunday. But if it doesn't, if he has a bad first round, which has been kind of his vibe over the last 2 years, he always has one bad round early on, either first or second day, and that sort of puts paid to any real chances of setting him up for Sunday run. So also Rory doesn't really it's not really where I would be going big this week on this
I'm
course.
pleased to hear that because I'll be swerving Rory. Now, I was on Tiger last time at 18-1. He's obviously come in quite a bit, but I did see a lot shorter than him in places as well early in the week. He's 12-1 now. I mean, that pressure of getting that first major in 11 years is off his back. But, Tiger, he's not finished there. He's going to be hunting more, and he's played on a course where he's won before. He's got plenty of support this week. I know Jason Dedekind, who was on the show last time, he sent me his selections. He couldn't make it tonight. But he fancies Tiger to go in the game. What are your thoughts?
It would be some story. 12-1, he's definitely got to be a favorite. He'll be fresh. He hasn't played since the Masters. He's been out on the course doing a few practice rounds, so sort of getting his mental sharpness. And if he's physically fresh, he showed that the Masters he can do it. At the Masters, he got away with a few leaky drives here and there, especially on the final day. But this isn't the course where he can do that. He's not as long as the others anymore. He used to be by far and away the big hitter, but Koepka and DJ, Rory, all probably bigger than him. So, Tiger will have to really work smart around this course. Not my favorite for the week. I think out of those top four, Koepka for me would be the one where I would be looking to back.
Yeah, well, I'm actually going with two of the top four, and for that reason, I'm going win-only bets this week. I'm going Koepka at 11-1. I'm a big fan of his. I did back him in a few of the majors that he has won. And Dustin Johnson, I've got to admit, I've got a bit of I suppose you'd call it a love-hate relationship with him. He's a bit like Rory as well. I've probably lost money on him over the years, but I've just got a feeling that he's going to go close this week and that he's going to be very much course-suited. So I'm going for those two at the top of the boards, and then I've got a few others further down. But let's have a look at sort of 20-1 and better the field. If you had to have a look there of players sort of in, let's call it in the next tier, who catches your eye?
Well, most people probably think I'm going to say Ricky Fowler, but I'm probably just done with him now. I think I've lost too much money on waiting for him to get his first major, so I'm sitting him as well this week. I do like Schauffele. I just feel like he's really honed his game over the last 2 years or so. Went quite well at the Masters. And I think someone who's being overlooked is Patrick Cantlay. He's only got one or two PGA Tour wins, but he's a top 20 player, and he's someone that could just surprise. I think playing on the places, Cantlay for a place might be quite good.
Yeah, of course, we've got things like top 10 betting and that as well. I'm just popping onto the betting.betfair site, just mainly because they've got a tool that I like to use on the golf. So they've got a page that's got recent form and course form on. But this I also quite enjoy. This particular page here is having a look at recent major form. So you can look at Johnson runner up in the Masters, Koepka running up, Woods, of course, he won the Masters last time out. And it's you can see the guys who are performing on the big event. And while you were talking, I was just having a look at Cantlay. Then I see, if I recall correctly, he started very strongly, or he was going very well at one point in the Masters. Faded slightly, but still managed the top 10 finish. And if you look at his career progression, he's starting to knock around the top 10 of the big events now. And he could well be ready to make the next step, perhaps into a top 5.
Yeah, I think bank on him on a top 10. I would say that's quite a tasty bet. I mean, he's a real pedigree player in terms of the young guys coming through the United States. So I do like him, and I like those odds. I think there seems to be quite a big gap between the sort of those big four that we started speaking about, and then the rest. And and in there you can find nice value. Tony Finau is probably another one to look at. He was in the final group at the Masters, and he's got a good all-round game. He showed it at the Ryder Cup that he can putt, and we obviously know that he's got prodigious length with his long irons and his tee game. So he's another one that's quite healthy there. I think he's around.
He's 40 to 1 there, yeah.
I mean, 40 to 1. That's really that's good odds. Those are odds that you want to be backing into, I think.
Well, I just popped onto Betxchange while you were talking there. Had a look at the top 10 quote there for Cantlay. He's just under 3 to 1, 29 to 10 for a top 10 finish. And if you look at where he's been hovering around there, that certainly looks an attractive price as well. Yeah,
I think that's a pretty good price.
Yeah, Finau's been knocking on the door, but I mean, he's a player that I've never really gone for. But he's played well. I mean, he was going so well in the Masters as well. And another guy that I fancy a bit this week, and I see a few guys talking about him, is Sergio Garcia. Garcia probably hasn't been quite the same player since he had his Masters victory, but he's been pretty consistent of late, and he's got some decent course form here. I'll have a look at it now, but if I'm not mistaken, you have to go back a few years just in terms of this course. You had the two US Opens played, obviously, over a decade ago, but they have played the Barclays here in 2012 and 2016. I just want to scan down to find old Sergio. There we go. So Sergio, yeah, a couple of top fives here, one in the Barclays and one in the US Open, and the other one a top 10. So he's got some excellent course form. He could well be a top 10 player at about the 9 to 2 mark there.
I think with Sergio is he's kind of like the Pakistan cricket team. You never know which one's going to turn up.
That's true. I must say, he was someone I followed very closely
if you go look at Sergio's last 5 majors, I don't think that's going to fill you with.
Gee whiz, I see what you mean. Hey, miscut. Is this? Yeah, what's he missed 6 cuts in a row? If I see that correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, yeah, you're right. He's not in great form in the majors, which explains us well. Maybe 45 to 1 is actually too short for Sergio then. But interesting, I've seen a few of the golf tipsters overseas that have gone for him. So, I've thrown him into my staking plan. But my big focus is the winner-onlys on Koepka and Johnson. And now we get into the sort of the outsiders. Just to mention Bryson DeChambeau, Jason Dedican, who tipped us the winner last time. He likes him at 45 to 1. I've got his selections written down at the end. We'll have a look. I think he's in agreement with a couple of yours as well. You had mentioned to me before the show on Twitter that you like Paul Casey.
Yeah, I like Paul Casey. I suppose he kind of fits into your Sergio. Hasn't been around the block a while, and I'll do another one. Casey's a grinder. Casey's he's won a few PGA Tour wins. Sort of getting back into form as he gets a bit older. And again, at 60 to 1, I think those are generous odds if you're looking for value and you're looking outside of that, elite band of players. I think 60 to 1, anytime you pick a guy at those odds, you're going to be very happy with your week.
I must say I do use Betxchange a lot, particularly for the golf. And what I've noticed with them in the majors is players, unless they really attract serious money, they tend to keep pushing the players out at these sort of levels. So you'll find your 11 to 1 shots will hover around that region. But, you might even, if you wait a bit, you might even find you get sort of 70 to 1 Casey or something like that when he's trading probably closer to 50 to 1 throughout the industry. So worth keeping an eye on that and having a look at some of the other markets there. Just scanning down the list and maybe just to break for a second, I just want to go down. I'm not sharing my screen at the moment, but I'm just popping down on their site to have a look at the top South African betting here, Wade. And tough times, I think, for South African golf. We're not really... we don't have quite the performers we had in the days of Ernie Els and Tiff Goosen, but we've got Louis Oosthuizen here at 1.75 to 1. Brandon Grace 4 to 1. Justin Harding, who's been the revelation, finishing 12th in the Masters at 5 to 1. And 7 to 1 and better the balance. Anything catch your eye in this market?
That's a tough one because the South Africans, no one would have gone with Harding to be the top South African. That's for sure at the Masters. I lost a little office bet. Probably shouldn't be saying this on camera, but that I had Harding to miss the cut, and he went on to do really well. So, Louis loves majors. He gives his whole year around majors, and but he hasn't really played that much this sort of building up to the Masters didn't fare too much, and then he played Zurich Classic and he missed the cut there. So he's quite sort of out of competition mode at the moment, so you don't know what you're going to get. I think a little surprise bet that I would go there with is Erik van Rooyen. He's had a few near misses on the European tour, and he seems to be in good form. That could be one to maybe tickle your fancy if you were trying to make up some money on, Louis' odds are not great. Grace doesn't have great form in this event. So I think Erik van Rooyen for me would be a real bolter from that pack. Most people would be looking at Harding because of just how well he's done, and he was again good last week, top 10 at the Byron Nelson. So his game is definitely where he wants it to be. But again, Eric's around there, and he's a really good player. He just needs I suppose like them all, he just needs his putter to bail him out on a few holes.
Yeah, so the advice here on this particular market, and Eric, by the way, 7-1, is perhaps to take on Louis Oosthuizen, because I agree with your sentiments there, Wade. Louis, look, when he's playing great golf, he's one of the best there is out there, but he's always had the injury issues over the years and health problems and that. And for me, you've got to take Louis Oosthuizen on in this market, and you can probably take your pick, and I'd narrow it down personally between Harding and I like your pick Van Rooyen there. I'll probably choose between those. I'm going to head back to the outright markets and see if we can find some really long price winners out there. Just want to touch on one guy, Francesco Molinari. He's not a long price, but he's 30-1. I was looking, Wade, at his record in the majors of late. I mean, he's been consistent. He's of course now won a major. He hasn't finished outside the top 6 in his last 3 majors, and at 30-1. I would have to think that I think the bookies tend to underestimate this guy. I think he's one of those guys, as good as he's playing, and that he perhaps doesn't get the respect of like a Koepka or a Johnson.
Yeah, definitely. I think he had quite flattering odds at the Masters too, and by all reasoning he should have won that. Bar the meltdown. Not quite Jordan Spieth meltdown, but a meltdown nonetheless. So Molinari 30-1 is definitely something that people should be considering, because he's got everything. He's won in America a few times. So that's definitely one. If you're looking outside of the top 4, Molinari should be someone that gets looked at for sure.
Right, I'm sharing my screen again now, just having a look down at some of the longer prices here. I've got a really long price I want to throw in at the end, but just having a look here. Anybody else catch your eye amongst the longer odds here?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. A few of these names that I'm looking at here, Matt Wallace, Eddie Pepperell, those guys, they were at the British Masters this weekend, went quite deep there. I'm worried about the fatigue factor. I do quite like, someone that might be a little bit fresher. I've seen some talk about Lucas Beauregard. He had that run at the match play, and that's put him on the sort of the US media's radar, but I don't know about that. I think if we're looking at a place.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought I'd knocked you off there or something. No. You say if you're looking at a place?
Yeah. Cameron Smith, the Australian, I think he's about 220-1.
Right.
He's got a sneaky good record over the last sort of 18 months or so. He's really gone up the ranks and up the rankings. So I think he's one to watch. And then also Hao Tong Lee, he's a player that makes tons of birdies. I think he's probably shot 62 twice or 63, should I say, twice.
Not sure. Are you still there, Wade? Sorry, I don't know if your line broke up there. We'll just wait for Wade to rejoin us. Cheers, Wade. Sorry, man. I don't know if it's your line or mine. Sometimes it gets a bit confusing. But just to mention, Beauregard there is at 250-1. So I think the moral of the story there is if you're prepared to look down that list, and it is the sort of tournament over the years that's had some big price winners.
It has. I think that might also have to do with in its old slot at the end of the year, where maybe there was a bit of fatigue and a bit of a drain and maybe even lack of concentration over the whole season. So in this new time slot with only a few events between the Masters and now, that sort of trend, as you will, of the first time winners and the one timers may just end. We may go back to guys that have been more consistent, but I do like a few of those guys around the 200s. If you've got a small stake, just to have an outside interest, because that's always a nice story when you land one of those.
Well, the other one that I've taken at a big price is Corey Connors, and he's a recent winner on the PGA Tour. And I've just seen enough of him. He sort of, I think he showed up early in the Masters, but he faded pretty quickly. He didn't hang around for long. But I've just seen enough of him to suggest that at 400 to 1, he might just give me a bit of a run for my money.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones. He's a recent winner. So he's got form. He'll be feeling good, and I do remember his name on the leaderboard at the Masters. So yeah, I think at 400 to 1, it's always a nice fancy and a nice outsider and land that fairy tale win.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go share the screen again. I'm going to run through. I've got 4 slides just to run through here. So this is my staking plan, and I've got your bets on later as well, Wade. Kupka, I like him at 11 to 1. I'm going win only. I'm going Dustin Johnson, win only at 11 to 1. I do like Garcia, but I'm going a unit each way there at 45 to 1. And I'm going basically a quarter unit each way. Connors at 400 to 1. I have just put up 2 other guys' bets, and that one is Jason Dedekind, because he was all over Woods last time. He loves Woods again. He's got 12 to 1. He likes Finau at 40 to 1 and DeChambeau at 45s. And then Brad, who's from Buddy Golf, and excuse my spelling of his name with a double S there, but he's gone Tiger 12 to 1, Garcia 45 to 1, and Kupka 11 to 1. And Wade, I'll go over to you now to run us through your 4 selections. I've just put the prices in there with Betxchange.
Yeah, I think Kupka's obviously my one for he's my top band player. I do back him, and then Patrick Cantlay, I would probably go on an each way on him, see if he can place. I think he's got the game for that. And Paul Casey is my sort of outsiding bet, 60 to 1, very attractive odds. And Xander Schauffele at 30 to 1. I think he's going to win a major probably within the next 2 years, and I don't want to miss out.
Yeah, I was certainly impressed with him at the Masters. At one stage, I thought he was going to go ahead and win that as well. Wade, then I know you've been punting golf for a good few years. What other type of bets do you take? Do you bet in play? Do you like a 72-hole match plays? Any of the groups, or do you just focus on the longer price win in places?
I'm a big fan of the first round leader market. I like that. I think there can be some value in there. You throw in an outsider name that might surprise. I know that Charlie Hoffman at the Masters is always one to have a nibble at. I like that. And then if there's value like in the top South African or top Australian or top Englishman, I always keep a lookout there. I do fancy maybe a Harding or a Van Rooyen this week over Westhuizen and Grace. So that's worth keeping an eye on. I think the better the English players play, the more attractive that market is becoming, because there's so many Englishmen now playing and competing, and there's Pepperell, Hatton, and Paul Casey, who I like. So there's money to be made on not straight outright wins.
And Pepperell, do you follow him on Twitter? He's quite a character, eh?
No, he's probably one of the best followers I have on Twitter for sure. He's a proper character. Yeah, I do enjoy him.
Yeah, I certainly do. Yeah, I must say, I haven't quite. I think nothing beats the US Masters for me in terms of anticipation. I think it's the sheer gap between the majors that gets me going. But I am looking forward to this one. But at this stage, just sticking to my win-only plays, I will have a look maybe at a couple of match bets and certainly in play as well, because certainly if your selections don't go well early, it's good to at least have. I mean, come Sunday night, I want to be shouting someone home.
Yeah, I think kind of jot down all the names that you chose, sort of Koepka over DJ, and then sort of when DJ's leading after 36 holes, you can lump someone on him and that kind of thing. I always like to just see who the 4 names that my sort of next best that didn't quite make it into my real selection, sort of see how they go, and you'd be often surprised how one of them breaks your heart and goes deep.
That's it. I must say it is one of those weeks because I haven't had quite as much time to research. I haven't had quite as long shortlist, if I can put it that way. But very often in the majors, I've sit there with 12 to 15 guys, and I kind of have to narrow it down. Sometimes with the big odds available, I mean, let's face it, if you throw a Beauregard in at 250 to 1, it's not going to break the bank, you know. So you might be able to get away with 6 or 7, but there's always those few players that you have to leave on the touchlines. There's nothing worse when one of them arrive.
Yeah. I think just because this will probably be the first major in the last 5-6 years that I haven't got Ricky Fowler, he'll probably win it. And at 22 to 1, I'll just be weeping into my pillow come sort of 2 o'clock Monday morning. But that's just one of these things where, I just don't feel this week he has the game to do it. And I'd rather look elsewhere. I'd rather go somewhere, those guys in the 40s and 45s to 1s, the Finals, the Cantlers, the Shofidis.
Well, I'll just share my screen there just to show people your Twitter account, and there you are. Is that you posing with Fowler?
Yeah, that's young Ricky after he won the Abu Dhabi Championship.
Okay, so you're a big Ricky fan. I mean, I know a lot of guys who've been waiting for Ricky to win that elusive major, and I guess the same thing applied to the likes of a Garcia. But then you also look, there was also the same thing applied to a guy like Colin Montgomery and Lee Westwood. And, of course, they never got that major.
And I suppose it's Ricky Fowler now versus Matt Kuchar as the best golfer in the world without a major.
That's true. And the pressure starts heaping on. But Wade, thanks very much, man. Enjoy the golf. I'll be in touch with you on Twitter, no doubt. Thanks very much to those who watched the preview. Remember, you can subscribe to the channel below the video. And look out for our rugby videos later in the week. We've got the handicap rugby chat that matters. That's 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. And I'll also put the links up somewhere around here on the right-hand side to the chat we had on Monday night, Use It or Lose It, where we just spoke about how to get bums back on Super Rugby seats, and also had a look at the box 12 and 13. Wade, thanks very much and enjoy the golf.
Cool. Let's go and get a winner this week.
Yeah, let's hit those bookies, eh?
Alrighty.